Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to another of our Small Business Development Center Webinar Wednesdays, hosted by California Bakersfield SBDC. Good afternoon. I'm Kelly Bearden. I am your guest host today. Actually, I'm your real host, but I feel like a guest host. I'm your host today, and I will be moderating our panel today. We'll be talking to a number of individuals today that we'll introduce in just a bit, that will actually work with us on this particular program with the City of Bakersfield that we'll talk about in a few minutes. So first of all, let's go through some of the current news that's going on and some of our regular happenings. So what's up today? Today, May 3rd. Well, first of all, happy National Small Business Week. 1 week a year, we designate to celebrate and honor our small businesses, and we are here that week. Where we are really kind of acknowledging and paying homage to the many small businesses and all the great things that small businesses do, from both a micro side of things when you walk into their business, all the way up to the number of jobs that are created nationally by small businesses and a lot of the other great benefits they provide to rural communities. So a big celebration for our small businesses this week. Still coming out of COVID, haven't had the full massive celebrations that we used to, but we're really looking at 2024 for getting back with a lot of the luncheons and a lot of the celebrations that we've had. But until then, just honoring our small businesses with your patronage is a big step in the right direction. So reach out to a small business and thank them for being there for you. Also, going to talk today a little bit about the banking crisis, and we have another regional bank victim that closed 2 days ago, and we'll talk a little bit about the ramifications of that. The one thing you always want to remember, and I sometimes forget to tell you when we're talking about the banking crisis, is that you know that Federal Deposit Insurance Company or Corporation, FDIC, will insure your deposits up to $250,000 per institution. Now, what we've seen with a lot of the banks that have failed is that they are in excess of that $250,000, but it is usually the stockholders and not the depositors that have had to take the brunt of the bank failures to this point. But the letter of the law is you're only insured at your bank for $250,000, so keep that in mind. Could have been a big problem with the first one, the Silicon Valley Bank, where a lot of small and newer businesses had substantial sums of money, but they were actually made whole by the government. Is there an interest rate hike today? Well, I'm going to have to go to the chat, and you guys are going to have to tell me, because it was supposed to come out at about 11 o'clock. I didn't see it then. We were anticipating a 0.25% interest hike today, and to raise interest rates one more time. A lot of discussion going on with economists, and we'll talk a little about that in a few minutes. Today, we're talking about our new local program within the city limits of the City of Bakersfield, and actually within certain census tracts. So we will introduce that program today and bring in a number of panelists today to talk about some of the things that are going to be going on in that. So our Capital Corner, we kind of stick with what's been going on with the disasters and some of the EIDL programs, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and property damage from the recent storms. Been benefiting from some nice cool weather. Hope that continues. Our community calendar will spotlight an ag disaster event tomorrow. Last week, where our special guest was from USDA Rural Development, but actually there's an event going on tomorrow that we'll talk briefly about. Also, storm disaster options that have been getting that assist from mild weather. And so hopefully bringing that snowpack down a little slower than I think we all had feared. And always today, please go to the question box for your questions. And actually today we do have a poll. I can get back to that. So simple poll question today, just a couple of issues that are kind of related around our bank failure, which is huge economic news for a variety of reasons. So this week it was First Republic Bank, a bank that kind of had a business model where they lured, or actually I wouldn't say lured, but they attracted wealthy investors and gave them 5-star service for their deposits. And it was a business model that worked very well until one of the banks in that range, Silicon Valley Bank, pretty much failed and closed earlier. And it kind of set that triggering aspect of where you've now seen 3 failures with banks. So this week's bank failure by First Republic Bank was the second largest. I guess our poll question is going to be, what was the largest? Was it the Bank of California? Was it Washington Mutual? Was it First Interstate Bank, or was it Lincoln Savings? So we have 4 banks that were real banks. Some of them did fail and some of them did not, but some of those were just bought out in mergers and transactions. But they are 4 banks that are no longer with us. Which one of them was the largest failure in the history of the U.S. banking system? And is that the Bank of California? Still remember their jingle from way, way back. Was it Washington Mutual Bank? Was it First Interstate or Lincoln Savings? Give you just another couple of moments to jump in on this thing. We do have about 44% of you participating. Get that number over 50. You know, I'm pretty happy if I get half of you participating in the poll. Elated at 70% and ecstatic at 80%. But we're going to close this poll at 44% of you in for the first question of the day, the first question of 2. We'll share those results with you. And 63% of you were correct. It was Mutual Savings, or excuse me, Washington Mutual Savings Bank. There we go. Back in 2008, that had a 63% failure rate. And then we had a 3-way tie where you jumped in and just couldn't decide between the other 3, but it was Washington Mutual that was the bank that actually, it was the largest failure on record. So thank you for participating. And what we'll do is we will stop that particular poll and we'll go back and open our second. And our second poll question for today is the reason behind what led to First Republic Bank's failure was it a bank run on deposit? Was it the stock price collapse? Was it the higher interest rates that caused it? Or was it all of the above? So they had a stock price collapse. We definitely have had higher interest rates, and we had a bank run, which, if not all of those reasons, caused that bank to fail. So really, the bank run on deposits, they literally lost half of their $200 billion in deposits within a 2 or 3 day period back in mid-March. The stock price was around $115 in March, and as of Friday, it was down to about $3. The higher interest rates made it very difficult for them, because what had happened with the higher interest rates is they had several loans on their books that were at lower interest rates that they would have to sell at a discount in order to raise more capital. So they would be essentially losing money to do that. So those were the 3 reasons. We're going to end this poll with 50% of you participating and share the results, and half of you say all of the above, and that is correct. That's the answer we're going with. For the reasons I just gave you, bank runs on deposit, stock price collapse, and higher interest rates all contributed. But I'd say the bank run and the higher interest rates were the 2 biggest factors. So thank you for participating in today's poll on our banking crisis, something we haven't had much of a time or much of a chance to talk about the last few weeks. So moving right along, what we're going to do now is move on to our next slide, and we're going to talk a little bit about the economy and some of the things that are going on. In doing so, I'm going to hit the chat real quick to see if anybody gave me any news. 1/4 point. Thank you, Dr. Novak. 1/4 point interest rate was what was anticipated. Next week, joining us will be Dr. Aaron Hedge, and in chatting with him yesterday, he had predicted a 1/4 point. And the 1/4 point, matter of fact, he even went out and said in the May meeting there'd be a 1/4 point, whereas many economists are thinking this might be the end of the run. So where they look to do the 1/4 point today, what does that really mean to you? What does it mean for most of us? Well, it mostly means that if you have any type of variable rate lending, any type of loans, that it's going to go down. But it also affects the stock market in a way, and also rates if you're looking for mortgages and other types of debt moving on down the road. But it's been nearly a 5.25% increase since March of 2022. And the Federal Reserve has said they will continue to raise rates. But a little thing happened. This banking crisis has contributed to now a problem with the Fed trying to raise rates to slow the economy down to get inflation down. It's great with these economic conditions, how they are all interrelated, and you just really can't treat one and hope to get it correct. And that's what we're seeing now with inflation. It's still remaining around 5% on an annual basis, which is well over what the Federal Reserve really wants to see. Also, some news, the jobs available list. The jobs available is the smallest since the pandemic. And that is really something, because jobs really stayed, and the labor market really stayed strong during the initial phases of raising interest rates and some of the other economic problems with inflation. And it seems to have now balanced out. And now really job seekers are the ones that are really looking rather than employers for employees. So we see economists that continue to be divided over the course of the economy. We'll talk a little bit about that next week. On our Capital Corner, we're still talking a little bit about the SBA disaster loans. There are 2 of them that affect Kern County. Most of Central California is impacted by several of these. What we see is that there are loans available for homeowners to repair or replace damaged real estate. And also those that the reduced interest rate loans up to 30 years for as little as 3.3% for businesses. So those are available if you had any water damage. We're kind of backing off on this, and hopefully we'll get by this onslaught of snow that needs to come down without any. But as of now, we have these 2 disasters that are open. One of them in Kern County is only a secondary filing, so it's only if you have economic injury from that disaster. So let's say that you manufacture a product and it was sold in an area that there was flood damage, and actually that business hasn't been able to buy your good or service, and it has affected your profitability, your cash flow in order to keep your business going. So that would be the first disaster that ended on January 31st. Then in March, we had a lot of rain and snow that contributed to a primary disaster declaration for Kern and several other counties. And it actually now is for home improvements and losses from flooding and storm damages, including wind and other factors such as mud or landslides. So here's a synopsis of that particular program. There are some Kern County and Tulare County disaster centers open. Please go to them. There's one in Lake Isabella and McFarland here in Kern County, and also a couple in Tulare County. You can meet with SBA officials during the hours of 8 and 5. USDA has a program, and there's the contact information that Maureen will have in the chat box today. And it is a contact information at USDA Rural Development, which will do up to $40,000 in home repairs. Also, the IRS, as you know, did provide some relief as far as tax relief, as far as timing to pay and file taxes for disaster-related counties, including Kern. Getting to our Capital Corner, our Kern microgrant program is ending very soon. Less than 50,000 in 2019, really down to a matter of days. Have a few more of those left. Would love to get those out rather than return that money to the state of California. Anywhere in the county qualifies as long as you meet a number of criteria, including 50,000 and less in sales. To see what SBDC tools we have for you, we have a number of tools in our toolbox. We have SBDC Net, which is a clearinghouse information for demographic information. If you're looking to start or grow a business, it's always great to have that fantastic marketing research information from the get-go. Live Plan, we mentioned, we have a number of licenses for the interactive live planning, and it really works great because it works with a consultant at the SBDC, and it's something that you can get up in the middle of the night and work on if you want, and then share it with it interactively shares with anybody who you put down with, and they can view it on their terms, and it gives you a great chance to combine on a business plan and the collaboration of a business plan in order to help your business succeed. It's great to have a plan, but it's even better to execute that plan. Our YouTube channel, we have about up to about 329 subscribers. Subscribe. Every one of our webinars ends up on the YouTube channel. So we have essentially everyone except for one in the last 3 years. So you can catch it a couple days before, or excuse me, a couple days after the webinar ends. And also the Morgan family, Morgan and Tasha Clayton shared their leadership transition plan. And we have that. You can contact us for that information as well. What's going on in the community tomorrow? Flood disaster release in Tipton. As you know, Tipton halfway between Fresno and Bakersfield. And so they have some farm, ranch, and dairy operations that might have been impacted by the storms. And so this is an agency through FSA, the Farm Service Agency, also with Valley Small Business Development Corporation, one of our statewide lenders. And you can contact Debbie Rabin at that phone number that will end up in our particular chat box soon. So that's tomorrow. Also, the Restaurant Care $5,000 grants for independent restaurants. Applications are being accepted through May 7th. You have to have one of the natural gas providers in California, be it SoCalGas, PG&E, or SDGE, in order to qualify for that particular program. California State University Bakersfield is one of the proud sponsors of the Kern Economic Summit, and that'll be on Channel 17, KGET on May the 13th, coming up in just about a week and a half. How else would you like to spend a Saturday night? And also, you know, we appreciate your feedback. We love the direction that we get from you, those of you that are out there and attending on a regular, semi-regular, or even occasional basis. So give us the feedback. Look for the link in the chat box. Look at our survey at the end of the webinar. Please continue to give us that valuable feedback so we can improve the webinar series. Okay, right on time. And let's bring in our special guest today. Our first special guest today is going to be Cecelia Griego, who holds the position of Principal Planner for the City of Bakersfield in Community Development. She's worked with the city 16 years in grants management and planning, economic development, and public administration. As a seasoned principal planner, passionate about our role for our community throughout the Bakersfield business community, partners with growth-oriented individuals and organizations. She enjoys, outside of that office, enjoys the time with the family and attending her daughter's sporting events and other activities. Cecelia, it's great to have you with us today. We're excited about this new program. I'm going to stop the share and bring you in and take it away.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. I'm really happy to be here and to share this exciting new program that the city's gearing up for. One of the things, just as a brief intro, one of the things that, coming out of this pandemic, we're seeing a lot of many city residents and small businesses really are having a new vision, a brighter outlook, really wanting to focus what is in their control and make things happen. And we really, coming out of this pandemic, then we have inflation, supply chain issues, labor shortages. There's just been so many challenges to our small businesses. And we really wanted to create a program that can help you kind of come out of those challenges and give you an extra leg and help you, get whether you want to start a new business or just help grow and expand your existing business. We want to help give you that leg up. So, what we learned is that, especially coming through all this, small businesses are resilient, and really, we want to really help business owners that are really, betting on themselves. So we also know, and besides existing businesses, we know new businesses continue to flourish. There's startups, especially people learning, hey, I don't want this job anymore. I want to start a new business. So we really want to support those efforts. We know supporting young businesses really helps, especially ones that want to bring a new something new to the market, really creates a great economic impact for our community. So we really want to support those business services that supports that, commercialization, gives you problem solving, helps nurture the talent that you have, and really wants to help support and bring that talent to our businesses. So, so one of the things we want to do is focus on our community is the city got an allocation of federal dollars, and we want to use that. We're using a portion of that to fund this new entrepreneurship ecosystem techno assistance and grant program is what we're dubbing it. So there's really kind of two key components to this program. You know, it's the, we really want to is to support those entrepreneurs with business services, both those ones that have, looking at a new technology that they want to go get into. They just want to grow their business model. They want help with marketing, supporting, or just preparing for new challenges. I think there's a lot of learning people did about pandemic and the impacts you can have, and just planning for those types of impacts in the future can also be helpful. Not only these new businesses, we want to support our Main Street businesses, those local restaurants, those retail shops, those ones that really are key to serving our community and really give the city its identity. There's just so many great businesses that we have that serve our local community. So really this program is designed to, key thing is to provide that technical assistance and to entrepreneurs that are both, startup businesses, but also established small businesses that really have been, just been impacted by this pandemic and what's been going on. So we know these, businesses, entrepreneurs really interact and depend on the resources and kind of like this ecosystem that's around them. And I know Kelly and his team and a lot of other supervisors are part of this great system, and we really want to nurture it and give them the resources and the know-how, and so they can help you. So supporting that strong energy system so they can nourish these this small business growth is important to us. So in this program, we are partnering with great providers that will include Bakersfield College Launchpad, the CSUB Small Business Development Center, and their Extended Education and Global Outreach, which we'll hear about today in their program, and also the Kern County Black Chamber of Commerce. So these are great partners that really know the local business community, and they're gearing up their programs and getting ready to really provide these business support services. Some of the key things they'll do is, your business plan development. Maybe you have some key business ready documents, you have some financial management, a broad range of business support services that they can help you, problem solve, or maybe you just have a new model or an expansion you want to do to update your current business plan. They can also help you with that. So, and really it's these technical services that is just one of the items that will make you eligible from a grant from the city. So the first phase will be gearing up these programs, getting that technical assistance, and the second phase is then the city will provide you, if you're eligible and meet certain criteria, which I'll go over some of that in a little bit, but the city will provide a grant, so get that capital that you need for either that startup business or that expansion that you have on your existing business. So really, we want to see you get this technical assistance. We want to see a solid business plan. As among other requirements that we'll go over in a bit. So really, to be eligible, you do we kind of have two definitions of businesses we want to support. Again, there's startup micro businesses, which we're defining as a business that's been in operation less than 2 years, and has 10 or less employees. So that'll be one target. And then again, established existing small businesses that have a business plan for an expansion or growth that have 25 or less employees. So these are kind of the two pools that we'll be targeting with this funding. We'll be providing kind of a mix of larger and smaller grants. I don't have those amounts for you now, but there'll be smaller amounts like just 5,000 or 10,000 to really get that initial start. And we'll probably offer a few larger amounts of grants, and that's for businesses that maybe have more equipment costs or more larger costs to really get started or to do that upgrades. And those larger amounts probably will have a little bit more requirements, like a job, like creating a job, or having a really strong, compelling business plan that really demonstrates how you plan to use that grant funding. So, kind of key criteria will be you do have to operate within the city limits of Bakersfield. And then there's another threshold is, and this comes with the federal funding that's funding this program. You have to be either in a qualified census tract, which we, in our, we'll have a website where you'll see a map so you can see if you are in one of those census tracts. And we'll also, or if you're not in a census tract, you have to meet household income thresholds. So, and that will also be further defined, but basically the business owner, the household of the business owner has to have a certain income level that is below the threshold. So, and we'll have a chart and table that will show that limit. So the city thought it was important to offer, we know not all businesses impacted are just in those census tracts. So this is another way we can offer this to additional business, especially those smaller startups. They'll really be geared towards them, knowing, hey, they might not quite be in the census tract, but they are low income, they want to start a business. So this is geared towards just kind of broadening the pool a little bit more to helping businesses with this program. So some of the key, the grant program isn't up and running yet, and our technical providers will give you an update on their programs. They're just kind of gearing up and running too, and they'll start marketing the programs. But we will host a website and send out a press release when things are, getting going, and you can start and signing up for their technical assistance and whatever you need. But some of the key things to prepare, at least for the grant portion, is, you do need a current city business license. We'll be requiring that, as well as other required permits for your business to operate. We do want to, have legally established businesses that we're supporting. Like, for example, if you work from your home, you do need that home occupation permit. Every business will have a different scenario, but we definitely want to make sure we're supporting businesses and, it also will help you find out, okay, making sure you have all the required permits to operate your business successfully. You will need to have a business bank account. The grant will not go to personal accounts, so you need to make sure you have that established. You need to be in good standing with the city, no code violations, no current on all your taxes and fees and whatnot. And you also must not have any outstanding judgments, bankruptcies, tax liens, and no current lawsuits. So those are just some of the things to be aware of. We'll have some more criteria. You also will need to have that technical assistance training. We'll require a certification or some sort of letter from the entity where you're getting that training to know that you're getting the support you need to make your business happen. And so that's basically it. More details to come, but this will give you a good idea of what we're hoping to achieve. I'll give it back to Kelly.
Well, thank you. We're excited to be participating in the program and can't wait for it to come on board. And with our partners at the SBDC, EGO, I will first introduce Jennifer. And let me get rid of that. There we go. So Jennifer, and I'm bringing in both Jennifer and Mark at this time. So first, Jennifer Patino is the Director of Professional and Continued Education Programs at CSUB. She began her career in 2007, oversees all non-credit certificate programs, professional development work, corporate training programs, specialized grant, and winter and summer sessions. Passionate about helping adults learn and continue their education as lifelong learners. Has a master's in science in public administrations at BA in psychology at CSUB. Jennifer, thank you for welcome and thank you for joining us. And let me introduce Mark, and we'll bring both of you in at the same time. Dr. Mark Novak serves as the Dean of Extended Education and Global Outreach and is the Campus Senior International Officer at CSUB. He currently oversees the delivery of the master's degree online programs. He led the establishment of the online education program at San Jose State University, serving as Dean and Associate Vice President in college. Some great work, extended studies at San Jose State from 1996 to 2013, had faculty positions at York University, cannot talk today, people. And the University of Winnipeg and University of Manitoba in Canada. Dr. Mark Novak received his undergraduate degree in sociology from Rutgers University, received a doctorate degree in sociology from York University in Toronto, Canada. I'm sure he went to a few San Jose Shark games while he was at San Jose State, as he has also published extensively in academic journals in the US and abroad, and the author of many books. Mark, thank you for joining us. Come on in.
Hi, Kelly. Can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear. And Jennifer, you have some slides. Why don't we start with those? Go ahead. I will let you just grab control of that thing right now.
Actually, I'm going to let Dr. Novak go first.
Yeah, let me just say a few things to set this up, and then Jennifer can go on. First of all, we wanted to thank the city for accepting our proposal and providing us with funding for this grant and the project that we're undertaking. Our project was focusing on restaurants, in particular in the qualified census tracts, which are really the core of the city of Bakersfield. And many of these are smaller businesses that are restaurants. They may be a one owner, one person operation. And we know that these kinds of restaurants face very large challenge during the pandemic. And many of them had to close. Some of them had to move into takeout. And we're into a recovery phase now. So our job is to help these restaurants recover. We know that small restaurants like this often work on a very small margin, as small as 3%, so that if someone isn't managing well, they can find themselves underwater very quickly. And I'm going to ask Jennifer to tell a little bit about our program, and then we'll discuss a little more about how we think we can help these businesses.
Thanks, Dr. Novak. I'm going to share just a few slides with everyone. Here we go. There we go. So this is just a working title, but again, like Dr. Novak said, and Cecelia said, we did receive a grant from the City of Bakersfield, and we're just kind of calling it, again, it's a working title, CSUB Restaurant Recovery. So a little bit about CSUB Extended Education, which is where Dr. Novak and I work, is we are actually a nonprofit unit within the university. I like to say we do all the things that main campus doesn't do. Although they do degree programs, we do online degree programs. We also have certificate programs, professional development, corporate training. We do workshops, obviously grant programs, and then community outreach. These are some of the topics that we're going to be discussing and going over in what we've decided to do and focus on for the grant, which is at the restaurant recovery. And just a few of the topics, right? So after speaking with a couple of different local businesses that are very successful, these were a few of the topics that they mentioned. So the business plan, food costs and pricing, labor, marketing inside and outside of the business, leadership, and then something that we heard a lot about was actually work-life balance. I think we all know that in this day and age, that's really big for any business that you're in. But I believe when you're in a restaurant or you run a restaurant, you tend to spend more time in the restaurant than you do out. So it is very important that you have that work-life balance. We'll be going over a few more details. And again, as Cecelia said, they're still being developed and we're still trying to figure it out ourselves. But for information about what we are putting together for the training, we ask that you please reach out to our program coordinator, Timothy LaFawn, and on the screen, you'll see his email address. We're really excited about the program. We're hoping that we're able to help a lot of business owners out there, restaurants, and we just want to make sure that everyone has a chance to fully recover after the pandemic. So, Dr. Novak, if you have a few more comments.
Yes, I do. I want to say a little bit about the program itself. The first phase of the program is going to be training. And that's where we've learned from restaurateurs in the city that many people start a business because they're enthusiastic about something. It may be their meatloaf. It may be they're enthusiastic about their apple pie. It may be tacos. And family members say, you've got to open a business. You got to open a restaurant. So people start with that kind of enthusiasm. But as we've learned, these are businesses, and businesses require another set of skills. So let's talk about someone who wants to do this, saying, well, you may have the culinary skills, but do you have the skills to manage staff? Do you have the skills to pay your taxes, to work with an accountant? But most of us, frankly, don't. I mean, most of us run out of our homes. So this is something we'd like to help people with, giving them the training and skills they need to be successful in the business side. So that's one thing. So there's a training component that will take about 18 hours of training, and it's probably going to be totally online. People will be able to access it on their cell phones, wherever they are. And that will be one piece. Now, out of that, if someone's successful in completing, they will receive certification. They've completed our program. The next phase will be working with the SBDC. Again, as part of the total package. They will then be able to do consulting and take the knowledge they've learned from their training and have a consultant work with them to develop, if they don't have one yet, a business plan, and develop and answer any questions they have about skills they might need. And the SBDC is very, very successful in helping people to establish themselves and run a successful business. So that's the second phase. And then at the end of that phase, the person will then be ready to apply for one of the grants that Cecelia was describing. So going through the program, it's not that you come out of it with a bunch of paper. You actually have an opportunity to apply for a grant somewhere in the $5,000, $10,000 or so range. And that can help you to move forward with your business. That might be buying equipment. It might be helping to support more staff. Whatever is found as a result of the training and the consultation. So that is really the total package. And we think the training will take place during the summer period. Then the consultation will probably take place during the fall, maybe the early fall. And then people will be able to apply for their grants, presumably sometime after that, fairly soon after that. So this is really the total package. We think is really exciting. You're going to get knowledge. You're going to get personal consultation and assistance, having a backup and a coach, basically. And then they're going to have some cash to work with to put their new ideas into practice. So again, we think this is like a total package for someone who's starting a restaurant, maybe feeling a little overwhelmed, or maybe saying, I'd like to start a restaurant because there are micro grants, but I don't know how to do it. Well, this is a way to get started, and not to just try and figure it out on your own. It might be everything from, how do I develop signage on the front of my building to make people want to come in? How do I develop social media? And do I develop social media? What does the inside of my restaurant look like? How do I handle HR, which are human resource issues with my staff? These are questions most of us who make really great chili or really make tacos or make really great apple pie, we don't know how to do any of those kinds of things. So we really want people to get a fabulous start so they don't struggle in the first years, the 1 or 2 or 3 years of their business. So that, I think, is a bit of an overview. I don't know if Jennifer, you want to say more, or Kelly might have some questions.
I think the biggest thing to remember here is we know that a lot of people are already in business, and this is just to help them maybe expand their business, or just, again, as we kind of called it, the restaurant recovery. So we just want to make sure that we're able to get the information to you that is needed to help you make your business more successful for yourself and for your families.
Yeah, and from my perspective, in knowing restaurants way too well over the years, the biggest issue I think we see between your chain operations that in the city of Bakersfield, we see you have tons of chain operators. And the reason we have tons of chain operators is their systems, is their financial systems that they use and they use in place that helps them operate their business. And I do know of the individual that Ego is talking to as far as providing the training. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's really, I think, those financial skills, that training, those metrics that you really need to watch, your milestones each particular month, the right statistics, and use that as a basis for applying those systems in your business. Those are the things that are really going to come out in the training. And the one thing is also between the training and the consulting, which will be done by the SBDC, you really get that factor to where you have a consultant who is working from a training perspective and then as a consulting aspect, and you get the group training in a one on 18 environment or 1 on 20, however many people in the class. But then when you get down to that individual basis, it's one-on-one with your consultant to where you can apply the aspects of what you've learned in the class. And that is really a dynamic opportunity for you. When we see business plans for restaurants at the SBDC, they can be quite varied. And, the actual financial accounting and the financial method is quite varied. It's ironic how you can have, basically 5 restaurant financial statements in front of you and they look a lot different. And we saw a lot of that during the pandemic and how it related to some of the packages and programs and relief programs that were out there for individuals. But really, it's going to come down to those systems and really using those financial systems and taking that knowledge that you gain in the classroom and then applying it exactly to your business. So that's why we're excited at the SBDC. And we'll be working with the clients that are trained at EGO and providing them with the one-on-one consulting, and then working with them with Live Plan and working with them on getting their business plan. And their business plan can be whatever they want it to be. Gone are the days when people would write 30 and 40-page business plans to impress a lender. Now you write a whatever you need business plan to impress yourself, because you're the one that's going to take that as a managerial tool and use it in your particular business. Far too many times people write business plans for other people, but you really need to use it as a benchmark for your own success and to benchmark a lot of the financial results. So we have consultants that'll be working with participants in the classroom in order to do that as well. So I guess my next question is I know we've talked about potentially even expanding, and of course this program, we've talked about existing business owners that are looking to expand. I think it's fantastic for that. It could be also for chef owners. It does take that time commitment that is difficult for a lot of people, but it is so worth it. And also we're talking about new startup, and not only restaurants, but new startup mobile food operations, catering businesses, beverage type businesses. They all benefit from the same type of system approach to all this. So I think that it'll appeal to a wide number of people, wide number of individuals, and it should be welcome in the community. And I want to thank both Dr. Novak and Ms. Patino for joining us in this. It's great.
Yeah, can I say something about the program itself? Because we know the restaurateurs are extremely busy. This is an intense business. Depending on what you're doing, it could be a morning business, could be at lunchtime, could be evenings, or all three. So one of the things we're doing is going to be an online program. So people are going to be able to sit. They've got an hour in the afternoon, maybe when it's a little quiet in the restaurant. They can sit, they can have their cell phone, and they can take a lesson. So that's one thing. So they won't have to go anywhere, and they can do it, 15 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time. Secondarily, the sessions are going to be short. So they might have 10 or 15 minutes of information, and then they're going to be an exercise of some kind. So it's very practical. This is not a lot of lecture. So I'll give you an example. We might say, okay, we're going to do something on budgeting. Now here's a little talk on how one should do budgeting. And then you're going to say, okay, now take an hour or half an hour and apply that to your business. How would you do this, whatever we taught you, in your business? Another example might be, how about the cost of food? Do you know the cost of a dish of food that you put out? Let's say it might be a small restaurant. Let's say it's a dessert. So what does an apple pie piece cost you? There's the apples, there's the butter, there's the flour. Do you know you're charging $5 for it? It might be costing you $5.50. Do you know that? And so that might be an exercise. We'd say, okay, here's some idea about how you go about pricing something. Now go spend an hour or half an hour and take some examples. Find out for yourself how your business is doing. Now, that might be too simple for someone who's really already very sophisticated. But there'll be a range of different opportunities for people to actually take the knowledge they get in small packets and apply it directly and immediately to their business. By the time they get to you for the consulting, we hope they will be skilled at thinking through these kinds of practical topics.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So, we had talked about even expanding into, we're talking about the restaurant program, but just a little nugget of what could come later. We've talked a lot about the Nurture childcare program, and maybe even using some of them to try to facilitate and help some of the individuals. That's the home-based childcare program. We know there's a huge need, but I think even expand into some other community programs that are vitally needed. So we'll just kind of throw that out there for later, but just to leave that tease hanging out there. Hey, we do have a question, if I can get everybody to jump in. I just see one question in the question box, so let me read it. And it's regarding the grants, so feel free to jump in, Cecelia. All these grants are for actual brick and mortar restaurants, not food service working out of a commissary, selling at farmers markets and festivals. So that's the first part of the question. So is it going to be brick and mortar only, or are food businesses that are working with more mobile locations, are they eligible?
I don't see why they wouldn't, as long as they operate in the qualified census tract or operate or income qualified. Physical building is not required, no, because some businesses might just be working from their home. So no.
Yeah, and when we talk about the training being based toward a restaurant per se, there's a lot of food and beverage operations that won't have the same need for the physical location, but they still have the same need for that financial information and the training that is going to be provided. So last chance to get some questions in here. I thought you'd be a very easy.
Point on that? Kelly, can I make another point on that?
Absolutely.
One of the lessons will be on, as an example, will be on marketing. And it doesn't matter whether you have a food truck, or whether you have a farmer's market stand, or whether you're operating out of your home. How do you let people know about your product? And if you've got any kind of physical location, then it's a matter of saying, what should signage look like? What are the opportunities you have for developing a logo or a model for yourself, so that people will say, oh, I recognize that business. The chains, as you say, have these everybody recognizes Carl Jr.'s, the Arches of McDonald's. Well, if you're a small operator, maybe we can give you some help through consultation and also through the course we're taking. We might say to you, do you have a logo? If not, how about trying to develop one? And that may be something we would deal in the marketing section that would really apply to anybody if they want to get their message out.
Okay, got another couple of questions that popped in. Do social entrepreneurial businesses that are nonprofit, do they qualify for these programs?
To be determined. Nonprofits, I'm not sure. Possibly, maybe I'll have to look into the I'm kind of leaning towards no, because remembering what it said in the federal, they actually have a specific definition of small business that we have to serve. So it'll be on our grant guidelines for sure. What the specific, but I'll need to double check those federal final rule guidelines to make sure. But I think it is geared towards, a definition of a small business.
So being federal money through the American Rescue Plan Act, you are kind of, the city and other recipients are kind of beholden to the requirements that the feds come down with that. So they might have a nonprofit aspect that is eliminated. But, I'm all for making a good case on why you should be able to maybe apply for the grants. That's always good to do. There are certain nonprofits that have a for-profit segment to them. And there's a lot of different ways that there's a lot of change that's going on in the nonprofit for-profit stage that we're starting to see with clients. And more on that later, but there's a lot of change that's going on between that. So, okay. Have you heard of the quality cost report? I'm going to leave that for our trainer, our professor, our professional.
I can't say we have, but we could bring that up with our trainer and see if we need to include that.
Fantastic. Hey, hitting our webinar chat box, you'll see a lot of resources. You'll see Tim LaFont's contact information to get more information from the training. There's also some happy Small Business Week greetings. You gotta love that. And also we have some of the SBA and FEMA information for Kern counties related to the disasters. We're even kind enough to throw those Tulare County offices in there. And you showed the slide on the microloans. I'm not positive of what slide you're talking about, but if you send me an email, or we will include them in our release this week when we send it out, the slides that were used. I'm not particularly sure which slide that is on the microloans. Okay, I do think you're probably talking about the Kern micro grant program. So yes, we will get that out to you. I don't know if I can pull it up right now. Let me get through this chat and let me go back and find it and see if that's what you're looking for. You'll also see some of the tax filings in the chat. You'll see our YouTube channel information. Further down, maybe you see this now, it's the 2,500 for eligible Kern micro businesses. So all that information is there, and plus a contact number at the SBDC. So, I guess I should have started from the bottom. I usually start the chat from the bottom, but not this time. USDA, what they do as far as some of the disaster stuff that's going on. Here's a good question for you. Is there any timeline for when the grants will be launched?
I can just give a projection. Right now, we're looking towards mid-June. We do want to give our trainers a time to get their programs at least up and running. So we can start, all marketing together our programs. So that, they do need time to kind of set up their programs, get things going, get hired. Some of them are even hiring additional staff. So we want to give them time to do that, because that is a required, a component of the grant. You do need to get some sort of training or consultation done, and your solid business plan ready to get a grant. So because we definitely want to support businesses that are taking this opportunity. So yeah, so it'll hopefully summerish, early summerish.
Kelly, just a point on that's a very good answer. Thank you, Cecelia. Is that if there are restaurateurs or people in the food service industry listening to this, either now or when it's put on YouTube, then Tim LaFond is a person to contact. We're at least right now gathering information about people who would like to apply for the program, even though we might not launch fully for about 6 weeks. We really want to begin to gather information about interested parties. So Tim LaFond is the person to contact if you'd like to register with us for this program.
Fantastic. Okay, anybody else, anything to add? We have no more questions. So I guess that wraps us up this week. We'll be back next week. Webinar number 275, we'll have Dr. Erin Hedgay, who's runs the director or co-director of the Grimm Family Center for Ag Management at CSUB, and Mr. Brian Kalogi of the Kalogi Corporation, who will discuss his very innovative carbon management program that he uses in agriculture to actually reduce water consumption while increasing yield. We're going ag next week, so okay, well, that does it. That does it. You'll be hearing plenty more on this particular program as soon as we get more details out, and as far as the training, get some firm dates. Cecelia did mention this program is being offered. There's a couple of other providers, being the Launchpad at Bakersfield College and the Kern County Black Chamber of Commerce. Hope to get them on, and we'll talk about their programs as we learn more and move on more, as we're just at the very beginning phase of this program. What is the total amount you have in grants, Cecelia?
We have what is it? I remember 1.5 total.
$1.5 million. Yeah. I like to play Stump the Panel right at the end of the webinar. I don't know why. Okay, so that, and I didn't do it. I didn't stump you. It is 1.5 million. So lots to go over in the coming weeks. So I'd like to thank our panel, Jennifer Patino, Cecelia Griego, Dr. Mark Novak. And it's great having you guys on and look forward to working with you all in the future. It's going to be fun.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank
Okay,
you so much.
take care, everybody. Have a great week, and we will see you next week.